AITA for putting ugly one-way mirrors on the windows facing one of my neighbors because I saw the husband looking in my windows. I live in an apartment on the ground floor of a house that was converted to apartments. My neighbors, one street over but the back of their house faces the back of the house I live in, can see my whole backyard and vice versa. My apartment has a whole wall of windows that are on the back of the house. It's gorgeous and is a big reason I picked the place. I love keeping plants and it let in a lot of light. Looking out, there is the neighbor's backyard which is large and comes up close to my place. The property line is maybe 10 or 15 feet from my windows. Once it has gotten to be warm out, I've noticed the husband of the family who owns the house looking into my apartment a lot. Even sometimes I'll look up and see him, look away then look back minutes later and he's still looking. So I started shutting the shades during the day but that was kind of annoying. My place is a dark cramped shoebox without the windows open. And I can't do that for too long because the plants were struggling without light. So I bought these window coverings that make windows into one-way mirrors. During the day when it is light out, my windows look just like mirrors now. From the inside it looks pretty much the same. The windows look tinted slightly darker but that's it. From the outside you can't see in at all. It looks exactly like mirrors. The section of windows it's applied to is about 8 feet high and 20 feet wide. After a week of the window coverings being up, both of the parents from the neighbor's house came to my door and wanted to talk to me. The wife was complaining about the windows for a lot of reasons. They were ugly. It was uncomfortable, especially for the teens and their friends, to have a huge mirror adjacent to the swimming pool. It's at a time that they feel insecure about looks and they have lost interest in hanging out by the pool. In the afternoon and evening, it was reflecting a lot of extra sunlight into their backyard. They couldn't enjoy eating dinner on the back porch with the sun in their eyes. I said sorry about the inconvenience but I wanted it for privacy. They both pushed back on that some and I said that I needed privacy because of the husband starting. He started denying it in front of his wife and so I took out my phone where I'd taken pictures and sent it to my group of friends and showed her a couple pictures of him gaping at my apartment and the texts from that time. He got mad and said he incidentally looked over, and the 8-foot by 20-foot mirror was a crazy overreaction. I said that I'd like to keep it, and that I was sorry but frankly this was avoidable. I think they're both mad because they called my landlord, who brushed them off. AITA for putting the mirrored film on my windows, and now for some top comments. NTA, you proved that you needed the privacy because her husband is a creep and they're upset for being called out. You don't owe them anything and if your landlord hasn't contacted you about it then you don't need to do anything that you don't want to. Did you explain the situation to your landlord so he knows what's going on? Many of the comments here are condemning you for being a renter and making trouble for the people who actually own their houses, but if you're not breaking any laws and your landlord is fine with what you're doing with their property, for the sake of your comfort and privacy, which is the key point to why you put those windows up in the first place, then you do you. Loved that you even took pictures of the husband staring into your window on more than one occasion. Renting or owning shouldn't make any difference. Privacy is precious. It's so gross. There's basically a whole generation or two of people who can't afford to buy a home and are forced into renting due to no fault of their own. That is due to 1980s onwards economic policies. Those people should be able to treat the place they rent as their home and as a private space. I had landlords once who used to just barge in whenever they felt like it with no notice, and when we pointed out they weren't allowed to do that by law, they got extremely angry because it was firehouse. It's like, yes, you are lucky enough to own this property and make money off me living in it, but this is my home. Everyone deserves a home, and a huge part of having a home is not having to deal with intrusive people coming in or staring at you all the time. TBH, I have teen siblings and I'm pretty sure they would love that mirror by the for TikToks and selfies or to check out their cool pool jumps. I'm pretty sure if OP was my parent neighbor, ARP's new issue would be teens using her mirror for vanity. LOL. The teens probably don't like coming over to swim because the husband is a creeper and watches them too. Edit. Thanks for the awards. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below as we get ready for the second story. AITA for no longer making my husband sandwiches to take to work after discovering he was selling them. My F33 husband M37 works at an advertising company. We're struggling a bit financially because we're saving up to purchase a new equipment. He is used to eating fast food and it was costly. He had no problem spending money daily on fast food, and after doing the math he spends more than $300 a month on just fast food, $20 daily. We live in an expensive area. I talked to him about it. He agreed that I make sandwiches for him to take with him to work. That way he eats healthy and we spare money for rent. Everything was going on well. I noticed he wouldn't respond when I asked whether he liked the sandwiches I make. but kept asking me make more than 2 since he was hungry. Yesterday, he came home with his friend and company worker. We sat at dinner table and his friend brought up the sandwiches I make for my husband and how delicious they are. I thanked him, then he said the price was a bit much. I was confused. I asked him to explain and he said my husband sells the sandwiches I make to his co-workers then goes to buy his own lunch from the restaurant. I was stunned. My husband denied it. I began arguing with him after his friend left. He said there was nothing wrong with it. I told him I will no longer be making him sandwiches if he's selling them to buy fast food. He defended himself, calling this an overreaction since he's not spending money on fast food, and said I was being unfair to start an argument over this. I just walked into the bedroom and stayed there. Then he said I owe him an apology for God knows what, and he didn't think it was acceptable of me to lash out and say I won't make him sandwiches anymore. And now for some top comments. NTA, he was profiting off your kindness and labor. He kept that he was selling them a secret because he knew it was wrong. And by setting the prices he did, guest commented it was high. He is also besmirching her name BC. He's making it clear she's the sandwich maker. Obviously it's the market rate though, since they kept selling. Why leave profit on the table? There must be some good sandwiches. Maybe look into expanding and making more money that way. Just don't have the husband eat all the profits. That was my first thought. Obviously Arp's husband is an asshole for letting her run into the knife face first. Blew it. If the sandwiches sell and they can profit off of it, why stop? Apparently there's a market for Ossoprist homemade sandwiches at that place for some reason. They're adults. If they wanna spend $5 for a sandwich that takes 5 minutes to make and has a production cost of 50 CTS, that's kinda their choice. It's not like sandwich ingredients are hard to come by and they're forced to buy them. Honestly, we did the same back in school. Brought in a sandwich toaster and spent the lunch break making hot cheese and ham sandwiches, selling them for like 3 times the cost, like 1.50 for a sandwich. And they sold. What do you guys think? Leave your comments down below as we get ready for the third story. AITA for telling my mother-in-law that I might not have a daughter anymore if she were her mother left in charge of her. I, 30F, have an 11-year-old daughter with my husband, 30M. Our daughter was diagnosed with anxiety when she was 7 and has struggled with going to school, both because of the number of kids in her classes and because she struggles a lot socially and doesn't like to be out of the house very often. She has a couple of friends, but I know she would happily stay at home if given the choice. COVID was very rough. She got used to never leaving the house or going to school. The school did not handle classes the best from the time they closed to the time the school year ended in June. No Zoom. Worksheets sent by different teachers. No deadlines. It was parents basically talking to multiple teachers and trying to keep track. My daughter really struggled when Zoom classes started in August. She struggled so damn much with having everyone online and invading her space, but I had hoped it would help her adjust better to going back to physical school. Her school opened back up in January and it has not been easy. She cries, pukes, doesn't want to go, is very withdrawn and doesn't engage with her teachers. She has talked about leaving school forever. Her school counselor and therapist suggested getting a babysitter to drop her off, that maybe it would be easier. So we did that and she had a panic attack on the way to school that first day of trying. This was followed by a solid 3 weeks of panic attacks and the therapist advised we stop because it was harming her more. It's still rough and spring break didn't really help all that much either. My IELTS have been very tough on us. They have said we cater to her too much, that we're too soft and understanding, that back in their day she would have been told to toughen up. My mother-in-law came hard for me after hearing our daughter had expressed dark thoughts to us. She's getting help right now for those and we're being referred to psych again. Mill said she was her daughter or was in her care she would be dropped off at school being told nobody cares if she's sad or doesn't want to and she needs to grow up. She said there would definitely be no therapy because it's only encouraging her. I told her I was glad she wasn't her mother or guardian with that attitude because I wouldn't have a daughter anymore and it would be all her fault. She was furious and the rest of my husband's family, husband not included, think I was very out of line and very hurtful saying that to her. AITA. And now for some top comments. NTA. Do not ever let that woman be alone with your daughter. I can only imagine the vile things she would say and potentially drive your poor kid to do. You and your husband sound like wonderfully loving parents. They remind me of my parents. We aren't close. NTA. I also think there's some aspect of I went through it and I was fine so you should be too. But they actually aren't fine and would benefit from therapy. So what do you guys think? Leave your comments down below and don't forget to like, subscribe and turn on the bell notification for future videos. In the meantime, check out these amazing stories. Peace.